In this video, we are going to dive into the world of Harry Potter like you've never heard it before. Not just spells and castles, but the hidden lessons, the secrets behind the story, and the truths that keep people coming back decades later. You're about to learn how a simple tale of a boy wizard became a global phenomenon, why its characters feel so real, and what their journeys can actually teach us about our own lives. We'll uncover the power of choice, the strength of friendship, and the one force that Voldemort never understood, but that Harry mastered. Stick with me, because by the end of this guide you'll not only see Harry Potter differently, you'll understand why it continues to inspire millions around the world, and why its magic doesn't stay in books. It lives in us. Drop a like and let's dive in. Harry Potter's story begins with a mystery. A baby left on a doorstep, marked by a lightning-shaped scar, destined to change the wizarding world forever. His parents, Lily and James Potter, were murdered by the darkest wizard of the age, Lord Voldemort. Yet somehow, the killing curse meant for Harry rebounded. Voldemort vanished, his power broken, and the infant boy survived. This extraordinary survival earned Harry the name the Boy Who Lived. For witches and wizards everywhere, he became a symbol of hope, even though he was too young to understand it himself. But Harry's life did not begin with fame and glory. After his parents' deaths, he was taken in by his only remaining family, the Dursleys. They were non-magical, what wizards call muggles, and they despised magic. To them, Harry was a burden. He grew up in a small cupboard under the stairs, mistreated and ignored, never knowing who he truly was. On his 11th birthday, everything changed. A letter arrived for him, delivered not by the normal postman, but by an enormous man named Rubeus Hagrid. This letter was an invitation to attend Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. In that moment, Harry discovered not only that magic was real, but that he belonged to a hidden world where he was already famous. Imagine the shock of learning you are part of a secret society, that your parents were not ordinary people, and that your own survival defeated the most feared wizard alive. For Harry, it was overwhelming. Yet it also opened the door to a new life, one filled with friendship, adventure, and the weight of destiny. The scar on Harry's forehead was more than just a mark. It was a reminder of his connection to Voldemort, a symbol of both pain and survival. Throughout his journey, the scar would tingle and burn, warning him of dangers to come. It represented the bond between hero and villain, a link that would define the battles ahead. Harry's early story teaches us about resilience. Despite growing up in hardship and neglect, he did not become bitter or cruel. Instead, he remained curious, kind, and open to love and friendship. This foundation made him capable of great courage. Chapter 1 is not only the beginning of Harry's magical education. It is the foundation of the entire series. The boy who once lived in a cupboard under the stairs would soon face trials that would test his heart, his mind, and his bravery. But it all began with survival, and with the mystery of why he, alone, lived when no one else could. The world Harry Potter discovered on his 11th birthday was unlike anything he had ever known. Until that moment, he believed magic was nothing more than make-believe. His childhood had been spent in a small cupboard under the stairs, with no hint that he was destined for something extraordinary. But hidden alongside the ordinary world was a vast and secret society of witches and wizards, living lives filled with wonder, danger, and tradition. This was the wizarding world. The first thing to understand about this hidden society is its secrecy. For centuries, witches and wizards had lived in fear of persecution. Long ago, muggles, or non-magical people, hunted and punished those suspected of witchcraft. To survive, wizards withdrew from public life. Eventually, the International Statute of Secrecy was passed, requiring magical people to keep their existence hidden from muggles. From that point onward, wizardkind developed its own culture, laws, and communities in secret. To Harry, the most astonishing part of this new world was how close it was to the ordinary one. magical shops were tucked behind enchanted doorways. Entire communities existed, unseen by Muggle eyes. Trains like the Hogwarts Express departed from hidden platforms, while magical newspapers like the Daily Prophet circulated stories in moving photographs. Everything was familiar, yet completely transformed by magic. Harry's first true glimpse of this world came when Hagrid guided him to Diagon Alley. Behind a brick wall in London, the alley stretched out like something from a dream. Stores sold wands, spellbooks, and enchanted objects. Magical robes hung in shop windows. At Gringotts Wizarding Bank, goblins managed towering vaults filled with gold, silver, and bronze wizard coins. It was here that Harry first felt the thrill of belonging to something larger than himself. But the wizarding world was not just about shops and spells. It was a society with deep traditions. Magical families passed down knowledge from generation to generation. Ancient houses like the Malfoys prided themselves on being pure blood, meaning their family tree contained no muggles. Others, like the Weasleys, embraced kindness and equality, even if they lacked wealth. Still others, like Hermione Granger, were Muggle-born, discovering their magical abilities later in life. These divisions revealed one of the wizarding world's greatest flaws, prejudice, which would play an important role in Harry's journey. History weighed heavily in this hidden world. Castles, magical artifacts, and centuries-old spells carried stories of victories and tragedies. Dark wizards had risen and fallen before Voldemort, leaving behind cautionary tales. Legends of powerful witches and wizards were told to children, teaching both pride and fear. This sense of history gave the wizarding world a richness that made it feel alive. Yet danger was never far away. Dark magic, forbidden curses, and creatures of legend made the wizarding world thrilling but unpredictable. The fear of Voldemort still lingered, even after his apparent defeat. Whispers of his followers, known as Death Eaters, kept many witches and wizards uneasy. Harry's scar was a constant reminder that evil was still present, hidden in the shadows. The wizarding world was full of magical inventions that blended the ordinary with the extraordinary. Owls carried letters across long distances, acting as living postmen. Staircases in Hogwarts shifted direction at will. Portraits in frames held conversations with passers-by, and newspapers had photographs that moved and waved. To Harry, each detail of this world was proof that magic was real, and that it had been waiting for him all along. Most importantly, the wizarding world gave Harry a place to belong. For the first time in his life, he was not unwanted or overlooked. He was a young wizard with a name that carried meaning, a boy with a future shaped by both choice and destiny. The hidden society of witches and wizards was not just a backdrop for his adventures. It was a home, filled with friends, mentors, and challenges that would test him at every turn. The hidden wizarding world is where Harry's story truly begins. A place both wondrous and dangerous, ancient yet alive with possibility. For Harry, stepping into this world was more than an invitation to Hogwarts. It was an invitation to discover who he truly was. At the center of the wizarding world stands Hogwarts. A vast castle hidden deep in the Scottish Highlands, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry is more than just a place of education. It is a living, breathing symbol of magical history. For centuries, young witches and wizards have traveled there to learn spells, brew potions, and uncover the mysteries of magic. For Harry Potter, it was not only a school but also the first real home he ever knew. Hogwarts was founded over 1,000 years ago by 4 of the most powerful witches and wizards of their time. Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Salazar Slytherin. Each founder valued different traits, and so the school was divided into 4 houses that carry their names. Gryffindor prized courage. Hufflepuff cherished loyalty and hard work. Ravenclaw honored intelligence and creativity. Slytherin valued ambition and cunning. To this day, every new student is placed into one of these houses, and the choice shapes not only their school years but often their lifelong identity. For Harry, the journey to Hogwarts began on platform 9 3/4 at King's Cross Station. Hidden between platforms 9 and 10, the gateway appeared only if you knew to run directly at the barrier. Beyond it stood the scarlet steam engine of the Hogwarts Express. This train carried students to the castle each year, creating bonds of friendship before they even stepped through the great doors. The first view of Hogwarts was unforgettable. Towers and turrets rising into the night sky. Windows glowing with candlelight. Boats carrying first years across the Black Lake, giving them a breathtaking glimpse of the castle reflected in the water. For Harry, who had never known beauty or belonging, this sight was nothing short of magical. Life at Hogwarts was rich with traditions. The sorting ceremony began each school year, where the enchanted sorting hat placed students into their houses. Feasts were held in the Great Hall, where floating candles and enchanted ceilings created wonder at every meal. The castle itself seemed alive. Staircases moved when they pleased. Doors sometimes refused to open without the right password. Secret passageways wound through stone corridors, waiting to be discovered. Classes at Hogwarts ranged from fascinating to dangerous. Professor McGonagall taught transfiguration, turning one object into another with a flick of the wand. Professor Snape taught potions, where precision meant the difference between success and disaster. Charms, herbology, defense against the dark arts, and astronomy all revealed new sides of magic. Students studied not only with books, but with cauldrons, broomsticks, and living magical creatures. The staff of Hogwarts became guides and guardians for the students. Headmaster Albus Dumbledore stood as a wise and mysterious leader, admired by nearly all. Professors like Hagrid, though untraditional, brought warmth and kindness to the school. Even the ghosts of the castle, such as nearly headless Nick, added a touch of history and humor. But Hogwarts was more than classes and teachers. It was a place where friendships deepened, where rivalries sharpened, and where courage was tested. House competitions, from earning points for good deeds to losing them for rule-breaking, created pride and rivalry. The annual Quidditch matches filled the air with excitement as students cheered on their house teams. In every corner of Hogwarts, students found moments of joy, challenge, and discovery. Yet the castle also held secrets. Hidden chambers, enchanted artifacts, and mysteries from the founders lingered in its walls. For Harry, Hogwarts was not only a school but also a place of danger and destiny. Dark forces had left their mark on the castle, and he would uncover them year by year. For all its magic and mystery, Hogwarts represented something even greater for Harry. It was a place of belonging. No longer was he the unwanted boy in the cupboard. At Hogwarts, he was a wizard among peers, valued for his bravery and heart. The friendships he formed there, the lessons he learned, and the trials he faced all became the foundation of his story. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry is the heart of the Harry Potter series. A castle filled with secrets, a community bound by magic, and a home for those who seek to find themselves. For Harry, it was not just a school. It was the beginning of the life he was meant to live. At the heart of the Harry Potter story is friendship. More than spells, more than battles, more than fame, the bond between three young students shapes the entire journey. Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger. Together, they are known as the Golden Trio. Their differences could have divided them, but instead those differences made them stronger, forming a friendship that carried them through danger, loss, and triumph. Harry was the reluctant hero. Brave, loyal, and selfless, but also burdened with loneliness and responsibility. Having grown up with no true family, he longed for connection and found it at Hogwarts. What made Harry special was not only his magical talent but his ability to inspire loyalty and love in others. He never sought fame, though it followed him. Instead, he wanted to protect the people he cared for, even when it meant risking his own life. Ron was the steady companion. He came from a large, loving family, the Weasleys, who welcomed Harry as one of their own. Ron often felt overshadowed by his siblings, yet he brought humor, warmth, and loyalty that were essential to the trio. He was not always the best student, nor the most skilled wizard, but his courage and heart made him an anchor. Where Harry had fame and Hermione had brilliance, Ron brought grounding. He reminded them of the importance of laughter and ordinary joys, even in the darkest of times. Hermione was the brilliant mind. A Muggle-born witch, she faced prejudice but overcame it with determination and intelligence. She loved books, rules, and logic, but she also carried a fierce sense of justice. Hermione's knowledge often saved the trio, whether by remembering an obscure spell or solving a riddle no one else could. Her compassion balanced her intellect. While she could be strict or stubborn, her loyalty never wavered. What made their friendship so powerful was balance. Harry's bravery, Ron's loyalty, and Hermione's intelligence created a bond that none of them could have managed alone. Time and again, they faced challenges that required each of their strengths. Without Ron's steady support, Harry might have faltered. Without Hermione's brilliance, they might have been lost. Without Harry's courage, they would not have dared to fight. Their friendship was not without struggles. Jealousy, misunderstandings, and fear tested their bond. Ron sometimes felt left behind, Hermione sometimes felt unappreciated, and Harry sometimes felt isolated. Yet every test made them stronger. True friendship, the story shows us, is not about perfection. It is about forgiveness, trust, and standing together when it matters most. The trio's adventures began in their very first year. Together, they solved the mystery of the Philosopher's Stone, braving enchanted traps that each highlighted their unique strengths. Hermione's cleverness with logic, Ron's skill at wizard chess, and Harry's courage all played a part. This set the pattern for years to come. Again and again, they relied on one another, proving that friendship was their greatest magic. What the Golden Trio represents goes beyond the world of Hogwarts. They symbolize the idea that strength comes not from standing alone but from standing together. No matter how powerful an individual may be, no hero achieves victory without the help of friends. For Harry, Ron, and Hermione, their loyalty to one another became a shield against fear and a weapon against darkness. Through joy and heartbreak, the trio grew together. From children discovering magic to young adults facing war, their friendship never broke. It matured, deepened, and showed that true bonds can endure even the most dangerous trials. The Golden Trio reminds us that courage, loyalty, and intelligence are strongest when combined. This friendship was not just a part of the story. It was the very heart of it. Harry found the family he had always longed for. Ron found his worth beyond the shadows of his siblings. Hermione found a place where her mind and heart were valued. Together, they became more than friends. They became legends. Every great story has a villain, and in Harry Potter that villain is Lord Voldemort. Known first as Tom Riddle, he rose from an orphanage to become the darkest wizard of his time. His name brought fear, so much fear that many wizards refused to say it aloud. Instead they called him you-know-who, or he who must not be named. For Harry, Voldemort was more than a distant shadow. He was the force that shaped his past and threatened his future. Voldemort's story begins in loneliness, much like Harry's. Born to a witch mother and a Muggle father who abandoned them, Tom Riddle grew up in an orphanage. From a young age he showed signs of cruelty and a hunger for power. At Hogwarts, he was sorted into Slytherin House, where his ambition and brilliance stood out. Teachers admired him, classmates followed him, yet beneath his charm lay a desire to dominate and control. What set Tom Riddle apart was not only his skill but his obsession with immortality. He feared death above all else. To escape it, he turned to dark magic, creating Horcruxes, objects that contain pieces of his soul. By splitting his soul again and again, he tethered himself to life, but at a terrible cost. Each Horcrux left him less human and more monstrous. As Voldemort, he gathered followers known as Death Eaters. They carried his mark, a dark skull with a snake for a tongue, burned into their arms. They spread fear, terrorizing both wizards and muggles. Those who opposed him faced death. Those who followed him pledged loyalty, but often out of fear rather than devotion. His rise brought chaos, division, and war. The prophecy that linked Harry and Voldemort revealed that neither could live while the other survived. Harry had not chosen this destiny, yet it was thrust upon him. The scar on his forehead, given when Voldemort's killing curse rebounded, tied them together. This connection allowed Harry to feel Voldemort's emotions and even glimpse his thoughts. It was a bond that haunted him, reminding him that his enemy was never far away. Voldemort's shadow extended beyond physical battles. He represented the darker sides of ambition, prejudice, and fear. His obsession with pure-blood wizards revealed his belief that magical power should be reserved for those of magical heritage. He despised Muggle-born witches and wizards, considering them unworthy. This ideology fueled cruelty and discrimination across the wizarding world. To understand Voldemort is to understand contrast. Harry and Voldemort shared similar beginnings. Both were orphans, both discovered they were wizards, both showed remarkable talent. Yet where Harry chose friendship and love, Voldemort chose power and control. Where Harry longed to belong, Voldemort sought only to dominate. This contrast reminds us that destiny is not about where we come from, but about the choices we make. For many witches and wizards, Voldemort's return was unthinkable. After his fall on the night he attacked Harry, the wizarding world celebrated peace. Yet in secret, his followers waited. His return, years later, reignited fear and war. Harry's journey was not only about learning magic, but about preparing to face the Dark Lord once and for all. The shadow of Voldemort hung over every part of Harry's life. It shaped his friendships, his fears, and his purpose. He was not only the boy who lived. He was the boy destined to face the darkest wizard who ever lived. The story of Voldemort is a story of power without compass. Courage and friendship's their meaning. Light shines brightest against the darkest backdrop. And in Harry's world, that darkness had a name. If there is one lesson at the heart of Harry Potter, it is the power of friendship. Magic may be what defines the wizarding world, but friendship and loyalty are what save it. From the moment Harry stepped into Hogwarts, he discovered that the bonds he built with others would shape his destiny. Harry had grown up with none of this. In the Dursley household, he was treated as an outsider, hidden away and unloved. That loneliness made his friendships at Hogwarts even more powerful. For the first time, he had people who stood by him not because of his fame, but because they truly cared for him. This sense of belonging gave him the strength to face challenges far greater than himself. The bond between Harry, Ron, and Hermione showed the strength of loyalty. They were different in countless ways, but when danger came, they stood side by side. Their friendship was not about perfection. They argued, they made mistakes, and at times they even doubted each other. But when it mattered, they chose loyalty. Again and again, they risked their lives for one another. Friendship at Hogwarts extended beyond the Golden Trio. Harry found loyalty in Hagrid, the half-giant gamekeeper, who treated him with kindness from the very beginning. He found trust in the Weasley family, who welcomed him into their home as though he were one of their own. Even characters who seemed unlikely allies, like Neville Longbottom or Luna Lovegood, proved that true friends can be found in unexpected places. Loyalty also revealed itself in sacrifice. When Ron chose to stand on the giant chessboard in their first year, he risked his own safety to ensure Harry could move forward. When Hermione stayed by Harry's side even when it meant breaking rules, she showed that friendship sometimes demands courage greater than spells. These moments of sacrifice were not grand in scale, but they carried meaning that echoed throughout the series. The importance of loyalty is perhaps most clearly seen in contrast to betrayal. Characters who turned against their friends or who chose fear over loyalty highlighted what was at stake. Pettigrew, who betrayed Harry's parents, stood as the ultimate example of disloyalty. His choices cost lives and shaped the war. These moments showed that loyalty was not only a virtue but a weapon against darkness. What made the friendships in Harry Potter so powerful was that they were built on trust and acceptance. Harry did not need to be the famous boy who lived to be loved by Ron and Hermione. He needed only to be himself. Similarly, the friendships with characters like Luna and Neville grew out of respect for their courage and individuality, not for status or ability. In times of danger, loyalty became a source of protection. During the darkest moments, Harry was never truly alone. His friends reminded him that no hero stands alone in victory. Courage may begin in one person's heart, but it grows when shared by others. Friendship and loyalty in the wizarding world teach us that the truest form of magic is not found in wands or spells, but in the connections we make with others. Harry's survival, his victories, and even his ability to face Voldemort were possible because of the people who stood beside him. The story of friendship in Harry Potter reminds us of something timeless. True friends may not take away the burden we carry, but they make it possible to carry it. Loyalty may not erase fear, but it makes us brave enough to face it. And in the end, it is these bonds of trust and love that prove stronger than any dark magic. Friendship in Harry Potter is not just about laughter in the common room or cheering together at a Quidditch match. It is tested in moments of fear and danger. True loyalty is revealed not when life is easy, but when everything is at risk. Think of the moment when Ron Weasley chose to sacrifice himself on the life-sized wizard chessboard in their first year. He knew that if he took the place of the knight, he would be struck down. Yet he did it anyway, because it was the only way to ensure Harry and Hermione could move forward. That is loyalty. Consider Hermione in the Chamber of Secrets. Even after being petrified by the basilisk, her research gave Harry and Ron the key to solving the mystery. Her dedication to knowledge, combined with her trust in her friends, saved countless lives. That is loyalty. And think of Neville Longbottom, often underestimated, standing up to Harry, Ron, and Hermione in their very first year. He knew they were breaking the rules, but his loyalty to what he believed was right gave him courage. Dumbledore even rewarded him for it, reminding us that sometimes loyalty means speaking hard truths, not just following along. These moments remind us that loyalty comes in many forms. It can mean sacrifice, like Ron's. It can mean persistence, like Hermione's. Or it can mean bravery in standing up even to your own friends, like Neville's. Now I want to ask you, the listener, a question. When you think about your own life, who are the friends who have shown you true loyalty? Who has stood beside you in difficult times, not just in moments of celebration? And more importantly, how have you shown loyalty to them in return? Take a moment to reflect on this, and if you are listening through a platform that allows comments, share your story there. Because just as in Harry Potter, friendship is not a tale we read about. It is something we live. When we look closely at the friendships in Harry Potter, we begin to see how loyalty is not separate from courage or love. Instead, it weaves through them like threads in a tapestry. Loyalty holds relationships together, and those relationships give characters the strength to act bravely. Take Harry, Ron, and Hermione as the clearest example. Harry often rushed into danger without thinking of himself. But what gave him the confidence to do so was knowing his friends would follow. Ron may not have been the most skilled wizard, but his loyalty gave him the courage to stand on that chessboard, or later to return to Harry and Hermione after moments of doubt. Hermione's brilliance might have made her a solitary figure, but her loyalty kept her grounded in friendship, using her knowledge to protect rather than to show off. Each of them wove their strengths together through loyalty. Loyalty also extended beyond the trio. Hagrid's loyalty to Dumbledore and to Harry gave him a place in Harry's found family. The Weasleys showed loyalty not just to Harry as a friend of Ron's, but as if he were one of their own children. Even Dobby the house elf revealed that loyalty is not always about obligation. His devotion to Harry came from gratitude and admiration, and in time, it grew into a powerful bond that changed his life. But loyalty was not without its tests. The betrayal of Peter Pettigrew showed how devastating the breaking of loyalty could be. His choice to serve Voldemort destroyed Harry's family and altered the wizarding world forever. On the other hand, the loyalty of Severus Snape, hidden and complicated, revealed that even flawed characters could show devotion in ways that were not easily understood. These contrasts showed that loyalty was never simple. It was a choice, made again and again, often in the face of fear. If we step back, we see that friendship and loyalty in Harry Potter are not side notes to the story. They are the glue that holds everything together. Magic may have lit the path, but loyalty guided the steps. Each victory over darkness came not from one hero standing alone, but from friends united by trust. This weaving of friendship and loyalty is what prepared Harry and his friends for sacrifice. It is easier to risk everything when you know you are not alone. It is easier to face fear when you trust the people standing beside you. And it is easier to choose love over hatred when you are bound by loyalty that cannot be broken. As we move forward, we will see that courage and sacrifice are not separate themes. They grow directly out of the friendships and loyalties that Harry discovered at Hogwarts. The Golden Trio, the Weasleys, Hagrid, Dobby, Neville, and so many others remind us that no act of bravery is ever truly a solitary act. It is the weaving of loyalty and friendship that makes courage possible. If friendship is the heart of Harry Potter, then courage and sacrifice are its lifeblood. Time and again, the story shows that real bravery is not about being fearless. It is about standing up even when fear is overwhelming. And true sacrifice is not about loss for its own sake. It is about giving something up to protect the people we love. Courage appears in both small acts and great battles. It is seen in Harry's decision to face a troll in his very first year to save Hermione, even though he had no idea what he was doing. It is seen in Neville Longbottom, standing in front of his friends to stop them from breaking rules, because he believed it was the right thing to do. And of course, it is seen in the many times Harry chose to confront Voldemort, knowing the danger could cost him his life. Sacrifice begins with Harry's own parents. Lily Potter's choice to stand between Voldemort and her infant son created the protection that saved Harry. That act of selfless love set the entire story in motion. Later, sacrifice continues in characters like Sirius Black, who risked his life for Harry despite years of suffering. And it is seen in Dumbledore, who carried secrets and pain so that Harry would have a chance to succeed. Perhaps the most powerful example of courage and sacrifice comes in the final book, when Harry walks willingly into the Forbidden Forest to face Voldemort. He knows the killing curse will strike him down, yet he accepts it because he believes his death will save his friends. This moment crystallizes the lesson that sacrifice born of love is the greatest magic of all. Courage is also shown in quieter ways. Luna Lovegood dares to be herself, no matter how much others mock her. Molly Weasley steps forward in the Battle of Hogwarts to protect her children and defeats Bellatrix Lestrange in the process. Even Snape, whose choices are steeped in secrecy, shows courage by living a double life, sacrificing his reputation and ultimately his life to keep his promise to protect Harry. Sacrifice in the wizarding world often asks characters to face loss. Loss of comfort, loss of safety, sometimes even loss of life. But what sets these sacrifices apart is that they are made for others. Characters in Harry Potter teach us that the truest measure of courage is not how loudly we face danger, but how willing we are to give of ourselves for the people we care about. When we weave courage and sacrifice together, we see that they are inseparable from love and loyalty. Harry is brave because he loves. Hermione sacrifices her safety to stand by her friends. Ron finds courage when the people he loves are threatened. Each act of bravery is grounded in connection. This lesson extends beyond the story. Real courage is not always about dueling with villains or standing on a battlefield. Sometimes it is about speaking up when it is easier to stay silent. Sometimes it is about giving up something you want to protect someone else. Sometimes it is about carrying on even when you are afraid. The Harry Potter series reminds us that courage is not about having no fear, but about choosing to move forward despite it. Sacrifice is not about losing, but about giving. And together they show us that the greatest victories in life are not won with power alone, but with love, loyalty, and the willingness to give everything for others. The theme of courage and sacrifice is not carried by Harry alone. It runs through the lives of many characters, both great and small, and each of their stories adds weight to the larger tale. These examples remind us that bravery is not reserved for heroes, and sacrifice is not limited to grand gestures. Take Neville Longbottom. For much of his time at Hogwarts, Neville was overlooked and underestimated. He was clumsy with spells, nervous in class, and often the target of ridicule. Yet when it mattered most, Neville's courage shone brightly. In the Department of Mysteries, he fought alongside Harry even though his nose was broken and his wand hand was nearly useless. Later, in the final battle, it was Neville who drew the sword of Gryffindor and destroyed Nagini, Voldemort's last Horcrux. His courage was not flashy, but it was steady, proving that bravery can come from those least expected. Then there is Dobby, the house elf who once lived in servitude to the cruel Malfoy family. Dobby's courage grew from his devotion to Harry. He defied his masters to warn Harry of danger, suffering punishment in return. Later, he gave his life to save Harry and his friends at Malfoy Manor. His last words, spoken with peace, were about freedom and friendship. Dobby's sacrifice was a reminder that even the smallest among us can make the greatest difference. Molly Weasley also embodied courage when she faced Bellatrix Lestrange during the Battle of Hogwarts. Bellatrix was one of the most dangerous Death Eaters, feared for her cruelty and skill. Yet Molly, a mother protecting her children, stood firm and defeated her. That moment revealed that courage is not always born in warriors. Sometimes it is born in love. Even Albus Dumbledore, a figure of wisdom and power, made sacrifices that defined the story. He carried the burden of guilt for mistakes in his youth, and he accepted his own death as part of a greater plan. Dumbledore's courage was not in fighting battles, but in guiding others to carry out the work he could no longer finish. His willingness to plan his own downfall revealed a different kind of bravery, one rooted in foresight and humility. And then there is Severus Snape. His story is complex, filled with bitterness, secrecy, and divided loyalties. Yet beneath it all was a sacrifice that shaped Harry's life. Snape devoted himself to protecting Harry, not out of love for Harry himself, but out of love for Lily Potter. He lived a double life, enduring suspicion and hatred, knowing he would never be celebrated. His courage was quiet, his sacrifice hidden, but in the end it was essential to Harry's victory. These examples weave a tapestry of bravery that shows courage comes in many forms. Some sacrifice their lives. Some sacrifice their safety. Others sacrifice their pride or reputation. Each act matters. Each act proves that courage is not about being the strongest or the most skilled. It is about choosing to give, even when it costs everything. Courage and sacrifice in the wizarding world are not limited to a chosen hero. They are found in house elves, mothers, teachers, and students. They are found in those who fight loudly on the battlefield and in those who make quiet choices in the shadows. Together, their stories remind us that bravery and sacrifice are not the exception. They are the heart of what it means to resist darkness. One of the most powerful lessons in the Harry Potter series is the danger of prejudice and the importance of equality. The wizarding world, though filled with wonder, is not free from injustice. Just like the real world, it is marked by divisions, discrimination, and unfair hierarchies. Through Harry's journey, we see how prejudice causes pain, fuels conflict, and must be challenged by those brave enough to seek fairness. At the heart of this theme is the idea of blood purity. Some wizards, like Voldemort and his followers, believed that magical ability was more valuable than those born to wizarding families. They called themselves pure bloods and looked down on Muggle-born witches and wizards, sometimes cruelly calling them mudbloods. This prejudice created deep divides in the wizarding world, and it was a belief that Voldemort used to justify his rise to power. Hermione Granger experienced this prejudice directly. As a Muggle-born, she was brilliant, capable, and often the most prepared in class, yet she was insulted and belittled by those who believed her blood made her inferior. Draco Malfoy was one of the loudest voices of this prejudice during their school years, often mocking Hermione simply because of her parentage. Yet her intelligence and courage repeatedly proved that magical worth has nothing to do with blood. House elves revealed another form of inequality. These magical creatures were bound to serve wizarding families, often treated as property rather than beings with their own rights. Dobby, the house elf freed by Harry, showed how painful this servitude could be. He longed for freedom, for the chance to make choices for himself, something most wizards never considered. Hermione recognized this injustice and even created the organization known as SPEW, the Society for the Promotion of Elfish Welfare, to fight for their rights. Though often played for humor in the books, this subplot carried a serious message about slavery, freedom, and respect for all beings. Prejudice also appeared in the treatment of magical creatures like werewolves and giants. Remus Lupin, one of Harry's most beloved teachers, was a kind and brilliant man. Yet because he was a werewolf, he was forced to live in secrecy and face discrimination when his condition was revealed. Parents pulled their children from his class, despite his skill and kindness. His story revealed how fear and ignorance can strip away opportunities, even from those most deserving. Hagrid, too, experienced prejudice because of his half-giant heritage. Though he was loyal, loving, and protective, many wizards distrusted him simply because of his size and his bloodline. This revealed another truth about prejudice, that it is often based not on reality, but on assumptions and fear. Even within Hogwarts itself, divisions existed. Slytherin House, known for ambition and cunning, was often mistrusted, while Gryffindors were celebrated for bravery. These rivalries sometimes created unfair stereotypes, suggesting that all Slytherins were destined for darkness. Yet characters like Severus Snape and even Draco Malfoy revealed that individuals are more complex than the house they belong to. The Ministry of Magic also reflected injustice. During Voldemort's rise, the Ministry created policies that targeted Muggle-born wizards, questioning their legitimacy and even attempting to strip them of their wands. This mirrored real-world systems of oppression, where governments have used laws to discriminate against groups they see as inferior. What Harry Potter shows us is that prejudice does not only harm individuals. It weakens entire societies. Voldemort was able to rise to power by exploiting these divisions. He played on the fears of pure blood families, promising them superiority, while using hatred to fuel violence. In contrast, the resistance against him was strongest when it united people from all backgrounds, whether they were pure blood, half-blood, or Muggle-born, whether they were wizards, elves, giants, or centaurs. The fight for equality is not easy, and the story does not show it as a battle that ends neatly. Even after Voldemort's fall, prejudice lingers. It is a reminder that injustice cannot be defeated in one moment. It requires constant work, empathy, and the courage to stand up when others remain silent. For readers and listeners, this theme resonates beyond the wizarding world. Prejudice, whether based on blood, race, gender, class, or background, exists in every society. The Harry Potter series asks us to reflect on our own world, to consider age. The end, Harry's story shows that greatness does not come from bloodlines, wealth, or heritage. It comes from choices. It comes from courage, compassion, and the willingness to see others as equals. The wizarding world is magical, but its struggles with prejudice are very human. And its call for equality is timeless. We have walked with Harry Potter from the cupboard under the stairs into the hidden wizarding world. We have stepped into Hogwarts and discovered how its towers and traditions shaped not only magic but also belonging. We have met the Golden Trio and seen how friendship can be the greatest spell of all. And we have faced the shadow of Voldemort, the Dark Lord whose presence looms over every page of the story. Through these early chapters, one lesson has repeated itself again and again. That true strength is not measured in power or in talent alone. It is measured in loyalty, in courage, and in sacrifice. From Ron's willingness to stand on a chessboard, to Hermione's dedication to protecting her friends, to Neville's quiet bravery, we have seen how even the smallest acts can hold enormous weight. We have also seen that sacrifice is the price of love. Lily Potter's choice to give her life for her son was the spark that defeated Voldemort the first time. Dobby's devotion and ultimate sacrifice showed that even those overlooked by society can shape the fate of the world. Again and again, the story reminds us that courage and sacrifice are not about glory. They are about love. But love and loyalty, courage and sacrifice, are not the only lessons hidden within the pages of Harry Potter. As the story deepens, we begin to see darker truths about the wizarding world. For even in a place filled with spells and enchantments, injustice exists. Prejudice, cruelty, and inequality cast long shadows. Blood purity divides families. Magical creatures are enslaved or mistreated. Fear and ignorance lead to hatred and discrimination. It is here, in these next chapters, that Harry's journey becomes not just about survival, but about understanding the world he has entered. It is about recognizing that the fight against Voldemort is not only a fight against one dark wizard, but also against the injustice and prejudice that made his rise possible. As we move forward, we will explore how the wizarding world wrestles with these issues. We will see how equality is challenged, how prejudice harms both the powerful and the powerless, and how choices made in the face of injustice define who we truly are. The next chapter will take us deeper into this theme, beginning with prejudice and equality. It is a reminder that magic does not erase human flaws. And it is a challenge to us, the readers and listeners, to see the connections between their world and our own. Every story of magic is also a story of morality. In the world of Harry Potter, the struggle between good and evil is not just a backdrop. It is the beating heart of the series. At first glance, it may seem simple. Voldemort and his Death Eaters represent evil. Harry, his friends, and Dumbledore's allies represent good. But as the story unfolds, we learn that this battle is not always so clear. Good and evil are shaped by choices, by fear, by love, and by the courage to act when it matters most. The rise of Voldemort showed the destructive power of evil. His pursuit of immortality, his obsession with blood purity, and his willingness to kill without remorse made him the embodiment of darkness. Yet his power was not built alone. He thrived because others supported him, out of fear, ambition, or belief in his vision. Evil in Harry Potter is not only one man. It is the corruption, cowardice, and prejudice that allow him to grow stronger. The forces of good, led by Dumbledore and later by Harry, reveal that goodness is not about perfection. It is about persistence. Dumbledore's army, the Order of the Phoenix, and even students at Hogwarts who resisted tyranny showed that ordinary people, when united, could stand against darkness. Their bravery was not always grand. Sometimes it was as small as refusing to betray a friend, or as simple as saying Voldemort's name aloud when others were too afraid. The series also challenges us to see that good and evil are not always black and white. Severus Snape is one of the clearest examples of this complexity. To many, he appeared cruel and heartless, a man who despised Harry and his friends. Yet his hidden loyalty and his sacrifices revealed a character caught between both sides. His story reminds us that goodness can be found even in the most unlikely places, and that evil can be cloaked in charm or respectability. Even Dumbledore himself, often seen as the greatest champion of good, was not without flaws. His past mistakes with Gellert Grindelwald, his secrecy, and his willingness to place heavy burdens on Harry showed that goodness does not mean being without fault. Instead, it means striving to do what is right, even after mistakes have been made. The battle between good and evil also plays out in the smaller stories of students at Hogwarts. Draco Malfoy, for instance, was raised in a family that supported Voldemort. He was taught prejudice and ambition from childhood. Yet when faced with the task of killing Dumbledore, he faltered. His hesitation revealed that even those raised in darkness are not beyond choice. Evil may influence us, but it does not control us completely. What makes the Harry Potter series powerful is that it does not pretend evil is easy to defeat. The fight against Voldemort required loss, sacrifice, and suffering. Many beloved characters fell in the final battles. Yet the story insists that standing against evil is always worth the cost. It insists that even when darkness feels overwhelming, small acts of goodness matter. The lesson woven throughout is this: good and evil are not defined by blood, or by fate, or by how powerful we are. They are defined by the choices we make. Harry was not destined to be good simply because of his scar. Voldemort was not destined to be evil simply because of his birth. Both had similar beginnings, yet they made different choices. And those choices shaped their lives, and the lives of everyone around them. The battle between good and evil in Harry Potter teaches us that light and darkness live side by side in every heart. What defines us is which one we choose to follow. And just as Harry's courage and compassion inspired others, we too can influence the world around us. Goodness spreads when we act with love. Evil spreads when we give in to fear. The choice is always ours. The Harry Potter series makes one truth very clear. Good and evil are rarely simple. They are not fixed labels. They are choices, and sometimes those choices are clouded by fear, love, ambition, or regret. When we look at certain characters more closely, we see that the line between light and darkness is not always as sharp as it first appears. Take Severus Snape. To Harry and his friends, Snape was cruel, unfair, and often humiliating. He favored Slytherins, belittled Gryffindors, and seemed to take pleasure in Harry's discomfort. On the surface, he was a man aligned with bitterness and darkness. Yet when the truth of his loyalty came to light, Snape's story changed. His love for Lily Potter, though flawed and filled with regret, guided him to act against Voldemort. He sacrificed his reputation, his safety, and ultimately his life. Snape was not purely good, nor purely evil. He was human, marked by both cruelty and love. His grayness reminds us that people cannot always be judged by appearances. Regulus Black is another example. The younger brother of Sirius, Regulus began as a follower of Voldemort. He joined the Death Eaters, buying into the ideology of blood purity. Yet when he discovered the truth of Voldemort's Horcruxes and the extent of his cruelty, he turned against him. Regulus gave his life to steal and hide one of those Horcruxes, a secret act of rebellion that played a key role in Voldemort's eventual defeat. His story shows that even those who once supported darkness can change, and that redemption can be found in courage. Draco Malfoy also reveals the complexity of choice. Raised in a wealthy pure-blood family that openly supported Voldemort, Draco inherited prejudice and arrogance. He taunted Harry and Hermione, insulted Muggle-borns, and seemed to embrace cruelty. Yet when Voldemort tasked him with killing Dumbledore, Draco hesitated. He could not bring himself to commit murder. His fear, his uncertainty, and even his vulnerability showed that beneath the mask of arrogance was a boy caught between expectation and conscience. Draco did not become a hero, but he also did not fall fully into evil. He lived in the grey space of a young man shaped by his upbringing, yet not beyond hope. Even Dumbledore, who stood as the leader of good, revealed shades of grey. His youthful friendship with Gellert Grindelwald led him to dangerous ideas about power and dominance. His decision to keep secrets from Harry, to guide him without full truth, showed the flaws in even the wisest of men. Yet these imperfections do not erase his goodness. Instead, they remind us that even the greatest heroes carry shadows. The grayness in these characters adds depth to the battle between good and evil. It teaches us that darkness is not always permanent, and that light is not always pure. People can change, people can regret, and people can act from motives that are complicated. In the end, what matters is not perfection, but the willingness to choose the better path. The wizarding world, just like our own, is not divided neatly between heroes and villains. It is filled with individuals making choices, some noble, some selfish, some both at once. By showing us the grey between light and darkness, Harry Potter reminds us that the struggle between good and evil is not only in the world outside, but also within ourselves. We have seen that the battle between good and evil in the wizarding world is not a simple story of heroes and villains. It is a story of choices. Voldemort chose power and control. Harry chose loyalty and compassion. But between them stand characters like Snape, Regulus, and Draco, whose lives remind us that people are rarely only one thing. They are shaped by love, fear, regret, and hope. This grayness is what makes the story feel real. Evil is not always loud. Sometimes it hides in prejudice, in silence, in going along with what is wrong because it is easier. And goodness is not always shining. Sometimes it is hidden in quiet acts of courage that no one sees. As we move into the next chapter, we turn to the theme that ties all of these lessons together. Love. It is the force that saved Harry, the force that Voldemort never understood, and the force that gives courage meaning. Love is not a spell or a potion. It is the magic that binds people together and makes sacrifice worth it. The next chapter will explore how love shapes destiny in Harry Potter. How it protects, how it transforms, and how it ultimately defeats darkness. If there is one theme that defines the Harry Potter series above all others, it is love. Love is the force that protects, the force that heals, and the force that Voldemort, for all his brilliance and power, never understands. Again and again, love proves itself to be the strongest magic of all. The story begins with love. Lily Potter's choice to die for her son created a protective charm so powerful that even the killing curse could not break it. This act of sacrifice did more than save Harry's life. It marked him as unique in the wizarding world. While Voldemort built his power through fear, Harry's survival was built on love. That contrast became the foundation of the entire series. Harry himself was shaped by love, even when he did not realize it. Though he grew up unloved by the Dursleys, the memory of his parents' love lingered in him. It gave him strength in moments of doubt. It guided his decisions to act selflessly. His connection to his parents, Sirius, and even to Dumbledore, taught him that love is not lost when someone dies. It lives on in the choices we make and the people we carry in our hearts. Love also appears in friendship. The bond between Harry, Ron, and Hermione is built on loyalty, but it is sustained by love. Their care for each other makes them willing to risk everything together. This same kind of love is seen in the Weasley family, who open their home to Harry and treat him as one of their own. For Harry, who had never known the warmth of family, this acceptance gave him a sense of belonging and joy. Romantic love also plays a role. The relationships between characters are not always perfect, but they reveal different aspects of what love means. Harry's connection with Ginny Weasley grows out of mutual respect and shared courage. Ron and Hermione's relationship grows slowly, built on years of friendship, loyalty, and trust. Even the tragic love of Snape for Lily Potter reminds us that love can be complicated, flawed, and enduring, shaping choices long after loss. But the greatest power of love is seen in sacrifice. Time and again, characters give up their safety, their comfort, and sometimes their lives for the people they love. Dobby gives his life to save Harry and his friends. Sirius risks everything to stand beside Harry, even after years in Azkaban. Dumbledore carefully arranges his own death to protect the future. And finally, Harry himself walks willingly into the forest to die at Voldemort's hand, because he loves his friends enough to lay down his own life. What makes love so powerful is that it cannot be forced, controlled, or destroyed. Voldemort sought power through fear and domination. He believed love was weakness, something to be despised. Yet that misunderstanding became his downfall. He could not comprehend why people like Harry, Dumbledore, or Lily would sacrifice themselves. He could not understand why loyalty bound people together more tightly than fear. His failure to grasp the strength of love left him vulnerable. Love also has a unique quality in the wizarding world. It is not only an emotion. It is a form of magic. Lily's love created a shield against Voldemort. Harry's willingness to die created protection for everyone at Hogwarts. The bonds between friends gave them the courage to fight when hope seemed lost. This kind of magic does not come from wands or incantations. It comes from the heart. The lesson is clear. Power built on fear and cruelty will always crumble. Power built on love will endure. Love may not shield us from pain, but it gives that pain meaning. It may not remove sacrifice, but it makes sacrifice worth making. The power of love in Harry Potter is not sentimental. It is fierce, protective, and unyielding. It is what drives Harry forward, what unites his friends, and what ultimately defeats Voldemort. And it is the reminder that in the end, the strongest magic is not the one that destroys, but the one that saves. Hogwarts is more than just a school. It is a community shaped by tradition, and at the center of that tradition are the four houses: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. Each house carries the legacy of one of the four founders, and each represents different traits, values, and ways of seeing the world. For every young witch and wizard, being sorted into a house is one of the most defining moments of their time at Hogwarts. The sorting ceremony takes place at the beginning of the first year. Each student places the ancient sorting hat upon their head. The hat, enchanted with the wisdom of the founders, looks into their mind and heart before deciding where they belong. Sometimes the choice is clear. Other times, as in Harry's case, it is more complicated. The hat saw ambition in Harry that would have suited Slytherin, but Harry's desire to be brave and to avoid darkness led to Gryffindor. This moment showed that while the hat considers qualities, personal choice also plays a role. Gryffindor is perhaps the most celebrated house in the story. Founded by Godric Gryffindor, it values courage, bravery, and determination. Its symbol is the lion, and its colors are scarlet and gold. Many of the series' heroes, including Harry, Hermione, Ron, and even Dumbledore, came from Gryffindor. The house represents daring and the willingness to act in the face of fear. But Gryffindors are not perfect. Their courage can sometimes border on recklessness. Yet their boldness often leads them to great deeds. Hufflepuff, founded by Helga Hufflepuff, values loyalty, patience, and fairness. Its symbol is the badger, and its colors are yellow and black. Hufflepuffs are often overlooked, but they represent steady strength and quiet resilience. They do not seek glory, but they remain loyal when it matters most. Cedric Diggory, one of the most honorable characters in the series, embodied the fairness and integrity of Hufflepuff. The house teaches that true greatness is not found in fame, but in kindness and hard work. Ravenclaw, founded by Rowena Ravenclaw, values intelligence, creativity, and wit. Its symbol is the eagle, and its colors are blue and bronze. Ravenclaws prize knowledge and originality, often producing some of the sharpest minds in the wizarding world. Characters like Luna Lovegood show that Ravenclaw is not only about logic and books, but also about imagination and seeing the world differently. The house teaches that wisdom comes in many forms, and that brilliance is often found outside the ordinary. Slytherin, founded by Salazar Slytherin, values ambition, cunning, and resourcefulness. Its symbol is the serpent, and its colors are green and silver. Slytherins often gain a reputation for darkness, largely because many who followed Voldemort came from this house. Yet ambition itself is not evil. Slytherins often achieve great things because they are willing to take risks and use every tool available. Characters like Severus Snape show that Slytherin traits can be used for good, even if they are complicated. The house reminds us that ambition, when tempered with integrity, can be a powerful force. The rivalry between houses is one of the defining aspects of life at Hogwarts. Students compete for the House Cup, earning points for achievements and losing them for rule breaking. Quidditch matches pit houses against one another in fierce but spirited battles. These rivalries sometimes deepen divisions, but they also create identity and pride. The four houses are more than categories. They are reflections of human qualities: bravery, loyalty, wisdom, and ambition. No single house is superior to the others. Each represents strengths and weaknesses that exist in all people. The series reminds us that greatness can be found in every house. Gryffindors may be daring, but without Hufflepuff loyalty, their courage would be empty. Ravenclaws may be brilliant, but without Slytherin ambition, their ideas may never take shape. Together, the houses form a whole. For Harry, learning about the houses was not just about sorting. It was about understanding himself and others. His time at Hogwarts showed him that bravery, loyalty, intelligence, and ambition live in every person. The Hat's message to him was clear. It is our choices, not our abilities, that define who we are. The four houses of Hogwarts remind us that diversity of strengths is what makes a community strong. Each house brings something unique to the castle. Each teaches lessons about what it means to live with courage, fairness, intelligence, and drive. And together, they make Hogwarts not just a school, but a symbol of unity through difference. The values of the four houses are not only ideas spoken at tea. Why shape the story? Each house has moments that reveal its strengths and show why all are necessary for the wizarding world. Gryffindor's courage is perhaps the most obvious. Harry, Ron, and Hermione embody it again and again. From facing trolls in their first year to entering the Forbidden Forest, Gryffindors consistently show bravery in the face of fear. But the truest Gryffindor moments are not about flashy heroism. They are about standing up for what is right. Neville Longbottom, often shy and overlooked, proves this when he confronts Harry, Ron, and Hermione for sneaking out of the common room. His bravery is quiet but pure, and Dumbledore rewards him for it. Later, Neville leads the resistance at Hogwarts when the school is under Death Eater control, showing that Gryffindor courage can grow in the unlikeliest of students. Hufflepuff's loyalty and fairness are seen in Cedric Diggory. In the Triwizard Tournament, he consistently treats Harry as an equal, even when others dismiss Harry as too young. Cedric insists on fairness, helping Harry when clues are unclear and refusing to take an unfair advantage. In the end, when they both reach the Triwizard Cup, he suggests they take it together. His sense of loyalty and fairness defines him, and his death at Voldemort's hand becomes one of the most heartbreaking reminders of how even the noblest can be lost in the fight against evil. Ravenclaw's intelligence and creativity shine through Luna Lovegood. Luna does not think like everyone else, but her imagination allows her to see truths others ignore. While she is often ridiculed for her unusual beliefs, her loyalty and insight make her invaluable. In the Department of Mysteries, she fights with bravery, using her knowledge to protect her friends. Ravenclaw values remind us that wisdom is not always conventional. Sometimes the most unusual perspective is the one that saves the day. Slytherin's ambition and resourcefulness are often portrayed in darker tones, but they also produce strength. Severus Snape is the most complex example. He is cunning, secretive, and ambitious, but he uses those very traits to protect Harry and undermine Voldemort. Without his careful deception, the Order of the Phoenix would have been far weaker. Even Draco Malfoy, though deeply flawed, shows that Slytherin qualities are not simply evil. His hesitation to kill Dumbledore reveals that beneath his ambition lies a conflicted heart. Slytherin teaches us that ambition itself is neutral. It can lead to cruelty, but it can also lead to great acts of redemption. When we step back and look at these stories together, we see how the houses balance one another. Gryffindor's bravery without Hufflepuff loyalty might turn into recklessness. Hufflepuff loyalty without Ravenclaw wisdom might become naivety. Ravenclaw intelligence without Slytherin drive might remain only ideas. And Slytherin ambition without Gryffindor courage might turn selfish. The houses, when combined, form a complete picture of strength. The Sorting Hat once warned that the divisions of the houses could weaken Hogwarts. Yet again and again, when students worked together across house lines, they achieved greatness. During the Battle of Hogwarts, all houses united to defend the school. Gryffindors fought with courage. Hufflepuff stood their ground with loyalty. Ravenclaws used wit and strategy. And even some Slytherins, quietly but bravely, chose not to stand with Voldemort. That unity showed that the true power of Hogwarts lay not in its divisions, but in its diversity. The houses of Hogwarts remind us that no one trait is enough on its own. Bravery, loyalty, intelligence, and ambition must work together. And when they do, they create a community capable of overcoming even the darkest of times. Every society has its games, and in the wizarding world, nothing captures the spirit of competition quite like Quidditch. It is fast, dangerous, and thrilling, a sport played on flying broomsticks that has captured the imagination of witches and wizards for centuries. Quidditch is more than just entertainment. It is a symbol of house pride at Hogwarts, a cultural tradition in the wizarding world, and a backdrop for some of Harry's most memorable experiences. The rules of Quidditch are complex but fascinating. Two teams face each other on a large oval field with 3 tall hoops at each end. Each team has 7 players who take on specific roles. The chasers handle the quaffle, a red ball used to score goals by throwing it through the opposing team's hoops. Each goal earns 10 points. The beaters defend their teammates with bats, using them to strike the bludgers, enchanted balls that zoom around the field trying to knock players off their brooms. The keeper guards the hoops, much like a goalkeeper in soccer. And finally, there is the Seeker, perhaps the most famous role of all, whose job is to catch the golden snitch. This tiny golden ball, with wings that dart unpredictably, is worth 150 points. The game only ends when the snitch is caught, meaning a Seeker's skill can decide everything. For Harry, Quidditch was a revelation. Discovered as a natural flyer in his very first year, he was recruited to be the Gryffindor Seeker, the youngest in a century. His ability to spot the snitch and fly with speed and daring made him a star. Some of his earliest triumphs at Hogwarts came on the Quidditch pitch, where he learned the thrill of victory and the pride of representing his house. Quidditch was more than just sport at Hogwarts. It was a way for houses to measure themselves against one another, adding fuel to rivalries. Gryffindor and Slytherin matches, in particular, were intense battles filled with skill, strategy, and often a fair amount of rule bending. Victories brought cheers and celebration in the common rooms. Losses brought disappointment and determination to improve. Through Quidditch, students learn teamwork, discipline, and resilience. The sport also reflected the broader wizarding world. Professional Quidditch teams existed, with names like the Chudley Cannons and the Holyhead Harpies, drawing crowds of fans just like Muggle sports. Quidditch World Cups were celebrated international events, uniting witches and wizards from every corner of the globe. The excitement of these games reminded everyone that magic was not only for study or for battle. It was also for joy, spectacle, and shared passion. Yet Quidditch was not without its dangers. Bludgers could cause serious injury, broom collisions could end in broken bones, and storms or enchanted interference could turn games chaotic. Madam Hooch, the Hogwarts flying instructor and referee, was often seen blowing her whistle in frustration as students took reckless risks. But these dangers were part of what made Quidditch so thrilling. Quidditch also carried lessons that echoed through Harry's story. It taught him focus under pressure, as the Seeker's role required concentration even when chaos raged around him. It taught him teamwork, as victory depended on the balance of chasers, beaters, and keeper working together. And it taught him resilience, as losses, injuries, and setbacks were part of the game. These lessons carried beyond the pitch, shaping the way Harry faced challenges in his larger battle against Voldemort. The symbolism of Quidditch runs deeper than sport. Each role reflects qualities of life. The chasers show cooperation. The beaters show protection. The keeper shows vigilance. And the seeker shows the pursuit of destiny, chasing something elusive and vital. Together, they remind us that success comes not from one person alone, but from a team working as one. For readers and listeners, Quidditch adds energy, joy, and fun to the story. It shows that even in a world marked by darkness, there is room for excitement and celebration. It balances the tension of battles with the thrill of games. And it connects Harry's personal journey with a larger culture of sport and community. Quidditch is more than flying on broomsticks. It is the heartbeat of competition at Hogwarts, the pride of wizarding families, and a reminder that magic is not only for survival. It is also for play. For Harry, the roar of the crowd, the rush of wind, and the golden flash of the snitch became some of his most unforgettable memories. Quidditch was not just a game for Harry Potter. It was a stage for some of his greatest triumphs, his most frightening challenges, and even his moments of joy when the world around him felt heavy with darkness. Each match carried lessons and memories that shaped his journey. Harry's very first match as Seeker in his first year was unforgettable. A complete novice to the game, he faced the pressure of an entire school watching. Midway through the match, he lost control of his broom under mysterious circumstances. Quirrell, influenced by Voldemort, had cursed it, nearly throwing Harry to his death. But Harry held on, determined, and with courage beyond his years, managed to catch the snitch in his mouth. Gryffindor erupted in cheers, and Harry's role as Seeker was sealed in legend. It was his first taste of victory, and it showed him what it meant to stand tall under pressure. In his second year, Quidditch became even more dangerous. A rogue bludger, bewitched to attack only Harry, chased him relentlessly during a match against Slytherin. The bludger smashed his arm, leaving it broken and nearly unusable. Yet Harry refused to give up. He clutched his broom, pushed through the pain, and managed to catch the snitch anyway. His victory was short-lived, however, when Professor Lockhart's attempt to heal his arm removed all the bones instead. This moment revealed the risks of Quidditch, but also Harry's stubborn resilience. One of the most exciting Quidditch events came in Harry's fourth year, at the Quidditch World Cup. Though he did not play, he witnessed the sport at its highest level. Ireland faced Bulgaria in a match filled with dazzling skill and heart-stopping moments. The Irish team won, but Victor Krum, Bulgaria's seeker, caught the snitch in a display of raw determination. This match opened Harry's eyes to the global reach of the sport and the way Quidditch brought together fans from across the world. Harry's third year brought both triumph and heartbreak. In one match, he faced the powerful Slytherin team, determined to prove Gryffindor's strength. The crowd cheered wildly as he captured the snitch, giving Gryffindor a much-needed victory. Yet later, in another match, Dementors appeared near the pitch. Their chilling presence overwhelmed Harry, causing him to faint and fall from his broom. His beloved Nimbus 2000 was destroyed in the crash. This moment showed the way outside dangers could invade even the joyful world of Quidditch, and how fragile triumph could be. In his 5th year, Harry became not only a seeker but also a mentor. With Umbridge restricting Quidditch and banning him temporarily, Harry turned his energy into training Dumbledore's army, applying the lessons of focus, discipline, and teamwork he had learned on the pitch. Quidditch had given him skills that extended beyond the game, preparing him for larger battles. Finally, in his 6th year, Harry returned to Quidditch and even became Gryffindor's team captain. He learned leadership, balancing the demands of strategy with the emotions of his teammates. Gryffindor's eventual victory in the Quidditch Cup was a highlight of his Hogwarts years, a moment of joy amid the darkening shadow of Voldemort's return. These matches and moments remind us why Quidditch mattered so much. It was more than a game. It was a test of courage, skill, and persistence. It was a place where Harry discovered strengths he never knew he had. And it was a reminder that even in a world filled with fear and conflict, there is always room for play, excitement, and the thrill of the chase. Quidditch gave us a glimpse of the joy, pride, and excitement that filled life at Hogwarts. The roar of the crowd, the rush of wind, and the golden flash of the snitch brought balance to a world that was often shadowed by danger. For Harry, it was a reminder that magic was not only about survival, but also about fun, community, and the thrill of challenge. But Hogwarts was not only about games and rivalries. It was first and foremost a school, a place where young witches and wizards learned the craft of magic. From the very first day, students were expected to master spells, charms, and potions. These lessons were not always easy, and sometimes they were even dangerous. Yet they revealed the heart of wizarding life, where the wonder of magic was studied, practiced, and perfected. In the next chapter, we will step out of the stadium and back into the classroom. We will explore the spells that change objects, the charms that make the impossible possible, and the potions that brew both healing and harm. These are the tools of the wizarding world, and they form the foundation of every adventure Harry and his friends would face. At the core of wizarding life are the tools of magic. Spells, charms, and potions are the foundation of nearly every lesson at Hogwarts, shaping how young witches and wizards learn to use their gifts. These are not only classroom subjects. They are the practical skills that define daily life in the wizarding world. From simple levitation spells to complex potions that can transform identity, each lesson reveals both the wonder and the danger of magic. The study of spells begins with incantations. Words spoken with intent and precision can alter the world around them. Even the earliest lessons at Hogwarts show the importance of control. In their very first charms class, Harry and his classmates practiced Wingardium Leviosa, the levitation charm. The wrong tone or wand movement could cause the spell to fail or worse, cause accidents. Hermione, with her careful precision, became the first to succeed, teaching us that magic was not only about power, but about focus and discipline. Charms represent some of the most versatile and creative forms of magic. Alohomora can open locked doors. Accio can summon distant objects. Expecto Patronum can repel Dementors, a spell so advanced that it requires both skill and powerful emotion. Charms are spells of enhancement, not destruction, revealing how magic can improve life rather than simply defend against danger. Spells also include defensive and offensive branches, taught in defense against the dark arts. Here, students learn stunning spells like Stupefy, disarming charms like Expelliarmus, and shields like Protego. These became essential for survival when Voldemort returned, turning classrooms into training grounds for real battles. Harry himself became a teacher through Dumbledore's army, passing on these skills to prepare his friends for the war ahead. Potions offered another side of magic. Instead of wand work, potions required patience, precision, and attention to detail. Under Professor Snape's watchful and often intimidating eye, students brewed mixtures with effects that ranged from healing to harm. The Polyjuice Potion, for instance, allowed witches and wizards to take on another's appearance, but only after hours of careful brewing and the addition of a rare personal ingredient, such as a hair. The Felix Felicis Potion, known as Liquid Luck, granted temporary good fortune, showing how powerful and unpredictable potions could be. Potions also carried lessons in responsibility. A wrongly brewed mixture could backfire, causing harm instead of help. In one famous mishap, Ron Weasley accidentally consumed a love potion intended for someone else, creating chaos until Professor Slughorn provided the antidote. These mistakes reminded students that mastery of potions was not only about skill, but about caution. Spells, charms, and potions together created the rhythm of life at Hogwarts. They were tested in classrooms, but they often spilled over into adventures. The trio relied on charms like Lumos to light their way in dark tunnels, potions like Polyjuice to disguise themselves, and defensive spells to survive duels. What began as lessons in textbooks became tools for life-or-death situations. These subjects also revealed the philosophy of magic. Spells and charms often reflected creativity, requiring not only memorization but imagination. Potions reflected discipline, patience, and subtlety. Together, they showed that magic was not a single skill, but a combination of art and science, passion and precision. The most powerful spells of all, however, came with moral weight. The unforgivable curses. Avada Kedavra, the killing curse, Cruciatus, the torture curse, and Imperius, the mind control curse, revealed the darkest side of magic. These were not taught as lessons to practice, but as warnings of how power can corrupt. Their very name, Unforgivable, reminded students and listeners alike that not all magic should be used, no matter how tempting. For Harry and his friends, the mastery of spells, charms, and potions was not about earning grades. It was about survival, growth, and responsibility. Each time they learned a new spell, or brewed a potion successfully, they were preparing for trials far beyond the classroom. The real test was not how well they performed in exams, but how wisely they used magic in the world outside. The study of magic at Hogwarts reminds us that knowledge is never neutral. It can be used for good or for harm. Spells can protect or destroy. Potions can heal or deceive. Charms can bring joy or chaos. What matters most is the heart and intention of the person wielding the magic. Magic in Harry Potter is a reflection of human nature. It shows that power, in any form, is shaped by how we choose to use it. Just as love, loyalty, and courage define the characters, so too do they define the true purpose of magic. And in this way, spells, charms, and potions become not just lessons in wizardry, but lessons in life. The wizarding world is filled not only with witches, wizards, and spells, but also with a dazzling variety of magical creatures. Some are beautiful and enchanting. Others are dangerous and frightening. Many live in the shadows, hidden from muggles, while others play central roles in wizarding society. For Harry Potter and his friends, encounters with these creatures were some of the most unforgettable parts of their journey. The first creature Harry met at Hogwarts was the Sorting Hat, enchanted but alive in its own way. Yet soon after, he encountered beasts both friendly and terrifying. In his very first year, he faced a mountain troll that had wandered into the castle, clumsy yet deadly. This encounter showed how magical creatures could be threats, but also how courage and teamwork could overcome them. Hagrid, the keeper of keys and grounds, became Harry's greatest guide to magical creatures. His love for them was unshakable, even when the creatures were dangerous. He introduced the students to hippogriffs, magnificent beings with the body of a horse and the wings and head of an eagle. Buckbeak, proud and noble, taught Harry that respect was the key to understanding magical creatures. A bow of the head could turn danger into friendship. Other creatures carried darker lessons. The basilisk in the Chamber of Secrets was a monstrous serpent capable of killing with its gaze. Controlled by Tom Riddle, the basilisk revealed how magical creatures could be used as weapons when bound by dark intent. Its defeat by Harry, with the aid of Fawkes the Phoenix, reminded us that even the most terrifying beast can be overcome with courage and loyalty. Dementors, though not beasts of flesh and bone, were perhaps the most frightening creatures of. Presence chilled the air and paralyzed the soul. For Harry, who had already suffered so much loss, they were unbearable. Yet from them came one of his greatest lessons, the Patronus charm. The shining form of a stag, his Patronus became a symbol of hope and love, proving that even in the darkest presence, light can endure. Not all magical creatures were dark or dangerous. Some became allies and friends. Dobby, the house elf, was bound by magic to serve but longed for freedom. His loyalty to Harry grew into sacrifice, reminding us that creatures, too, could embody courage and love. Fawkes the Phoenix appeared when hope was needed most, healing with tears and carrying Harry to safety. Even the Thestrals, skeletal winged horses visible only to those who had seen death, became symbols of truth and acceptance, guiding Harry and his friends to the Ministry of Magic. Creatures also played roles in the classroom. Professor Kettleburn, and later Hagrid, taught care of magical creatures, introducing students to blast-ended Skrewts, Nifflers, unicorns, and many more. These lessons often revealed as much about the students as about the beasts. Some, like Hermione, approached with curiosity and respect. Others, like Draco Malfoy, approached with disdain or fear. The treatment of creatures reflected deeper truths about compassion, responsibility, and prejudice. Giants also stood as symbols in the series. Feared and misunderstood, they were often driven away by wizards. Hagrid, half giant himself, carried the burden of that prejudice. Yet he reminded Harry and his friends that giants, like all creatures, were not defined by fear or stereotype. Their story echoed the broader theme of equality in the wizarding world. The magical creatures of Harry Potter are not only fantastical additions to the story. They are mirrors. They reflect the fears, hopes, and choices of the characters who encounter them. To face a basilisk is to face terror. To befriend a hippogriff is to learn respect. To see a thestral is to accept loss. And to cast a Patronus against a Dementor is to embrace love stronger than despair. For Harry, encounters with magical creatures were never just adventures. They were lessons in compassion, resilience, and respect for the unknown. The creatures reminded him, and us, that the wizarding world is vast and varied, filled with beings whose value cannot be measured only by how useful or dangerous they are. The presence of magical creatures adds depth and wonder to the series. They make the wizarding world feel alive, unpredictable, and real. More than that, they teach us that understanding and respect are the keys to harmony. Whether friend or foe, beast or guardian, magical creatures challenge us to see beyond fear, to seek connection, and to recognize the extraordinary in the world around us. The Harry Potter series brings magical creatures to life not only as background, but as central moments that shape Harry's journey. Each creature has its own lesson, its own meaning, and its own place in the story. In Harry's second year, the basilisk slithered through the hidden pipes of the castle, terrorizing Hogwarts. Controlled by Tom Riddle through the Chamber of Secrets, this monster embodied fear itself. Its venom was deadly, its gaze could kill, and its presence left the entire school paralyzed. Harry's battle with the basilisk was one of his first true tests of heroism. Armed only with the sword of Gryffindor, aided by Fawkes the Phoenix, he proved that courage could triumph even against the most terrifying of foes. In his third year, Harry met Buckbeak the Hippogriff. This proud creature, half eagle and half horse, required respect before it would allow a rider. When Harry bowed and Buckbeak bowed back, a bond of trust was formed. Their flight together across the lake was one of Harry's most joyful moments, a reminder of freedom and the thrill of magic. Buckbeak later became a symbol of justice when Harry and Hermione rescued him from execution, proving that compassion and respect could save even the most misunderstood beings. That same year, Harry encountered Dementors. Though not beasts in the ordinary sense, their effect was devastating. They drained hope, joy, and warmth, leaving behind only despair. For Harry, who carried memories of trauma and loss, their presence was unbearable. Yet from them came one of his greatest lessons, the Patronus charm. By conjuring a stag of pure light, Harry learned that love and happy memories were the strongest defenses against darkness. In his fourth year, Harry faced the Hungarian Horntail during the Triwizard Tournament. This dragon, fierce and deadly, guarded a golden egg Harry needed to win the first task. With fire streaming from its jaws and its massive wings shaking the arena, the Horntail seemed unstoppable. Yet Harry's skill as a seeker saved him. By summoning his broom and outflying the dragon, he turned fear into triumph. The Horntail became a symbol of Harry's ability to face danger with courage and quick thinking. In the same year, Harry met merpeople in the Black Lake. Unlike the friendly creatures of fairy tales, these merpeople were fierce and proud, with a society of their own beneath the waves. Their role in the second task of the tournament revealed that magical creatures are not simply beasts but intelligent beings with rules and culture. Harry's compassion for them, when he refused to leave hostages behind, showed his heart as much as his bravery. The Acromantula named Aragog also loomed large in Harry's adventures. Introduced through Hagrid, Aragog was a giant spider with a colony of equally massive offspring. Though he respected Hagrid, Aragog did not extend that loyalty to Harry and Ron, nearly feeding them to his children. The Acromantulas reveal the danger of creatures that live outside human morality, creatures to be respected but never fully trusted. Later in the series, Harry encountered Thestrals, skeletal winged horses that pulled the carriages to Hogwarts. Invisible to most students, Thestrals could only be seen by those who had witnessed death. For Harry, they became a symbol of acceptance, of coming to terms with loss. Though frightening in appearance, they were gentle and loyal, reminding us that what seems dark or unsettling can also carry beauty and wisdom. These encounters with magical beasts were never random. Each creature reflected something Harry needed to learn. The basilisk showed him that courage could face even mortal danger. Buckbeak taught him respect and trust. Dementors tested his resilience against despair. Dragons tested his nerve. Merpeople showed his compassion. Aragog revealed the limits of trust. And Thestrals taught him the acceptance of death and grief. Together, these creatures enriched the world of Harry Potter, turning every year at Hogwarts into not only a lesson in magic but also a lesson in life. At the heart of the final Harry Potter story lies one of the most mysterious legends of the wizarding world. The tale of the Deathly Hallows. Unlike spells, potions, or magical creatures, the Hallows were not part of everyday wizarding life. They were whispered in stories, half believed, half dismissed. Yet in the end, they became central to Harry's destiny. The Deathly Hallows are three powerful objects said to have been created by Death himself. They are introduced in the Tales of Beedle the Bard, a collection of wizarding fairy tales. The story tells of three brothers who tried to cheat Death. In admiration, or perhaps mockery, Death gave each of them a gift, The first brother received the Elder Wand, the most powerful wand ever made. It was said to make its wielder unbeatable in duels. But the brother's arrogance led to his downfall. Others coveted the wand, and he was murdered in his sleep. The Elder Wand became a prize that passed from hand to hand, leaving destruction in its wake. The second brother received the Resurrection Stone, a gem that could recall the dead. He used it to summon the woman he loved, but she was only a shadow, not truly alive. Unable to bear the distance between life and death, he took his own life. The stone revealed the danger of clinging to the past and the pain of refusing to let go. The third brother received the Invisibility Cloak, a gift that allowed him to hide even from death. He lived a long life, using the cloak wisely, and when he was ready, he greeted death as an old friend. The cloak represented wisdom, humility, and acceptance of mortality. Together, the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, and the Invisibility Cloak form the Deathly Hallows. Possessing all three was said to make one the master of death. This idea tempted many, including Dumbledore, who once sought the Hallows in his youth. Yet the legend was not about conquering death. It was about understanding it. For Harry, the Hallows appeared at a time of great struggle. Voldemort sought the Elder Wand, believing it would make him invincible. He took it from Dumbledore's tomb, confident that it would ensure his victory. The Resurrection Stone fell into Harry's hands, set into the snitch Dumbledore left him. And the Invisibility Cloak had been Harry since his first year, passed down from his father. In the end, Harry possessed all three. But what mattered most was how he chose to use them. He did not seek to dominate with the Elder Wand. Instead, he used it to protect and, ultimately, returned it. He did not cling to the Resurrection Stone. He used it only briefly, to gather the courage to face death, then let it fall in the forest. The Invisibility Cloak he kept, not as a weapon, but as a symbol of protection and humility. The true meaning of the Deathly Hallows was not about becoming immortal or untouchable. It was about acceptance. The first two brothers represent the danger of pride and grief. The third brother represents wisdom. Harry, by following the third brother's path, became not the master of death in the sense of conquering it, but in the sense of making peace with it. He chose sacrifice, he chose acceptance, and through that, he gained victory. The Hallows also highlight the difference between Harry and Voldemort. Both sought power, both encountered death, but their choices divided them. Voldemort clung to life at all costs, tearing his soul into pieces to avoid mortality. Harry, given the chance to command the Hallows, chose humility instead. This contrast revealed why Voldemort fell. For all his brilliance, he never understood the power of acceptance, or the strength of love. The Deathly Hallows are more than artifacts. They are symbols. The Elder Wand represents the temptation of power. The Resurrection Stone represents the weight of grief. The Invisibility Cloak represents the wisdom to live fully and accept the end when it comes. Together, they tell us that the true victory over death is not in avoiding it, but in living so well that when it comes, we can greet it without fear. For readers and listeners, the Hallows serve as the final lesson of the Harry Potter story. We cannot escape loss. We cannot cling forever to those we love. But we can choose to live with courage, with compassion, and with humility. That is what it means to be the master of death. If the Deathly Hallows are the symbols of wisdom and acceptance, then Horcruxes are their dark reflection. Where the Hallows show the value of life and the peace of mortality, Horcruxes represent the fear of death twisted into obsession. They are objects of unspeakable dark magic, created by tearing the soul apart and hiding pieces of it to ensure one's survival. And they are central to Voldemort's rise and eventual downfall. A Horcrux is formed when a wizard commits murder. The act of killing rips the soul, and through a dark ritual, part of that soul can be sealed into an object. As long as that fragment remains, the wizard cannot truly die. Voldemort, terrified of death, created not one Horcrux but many, scattering pieces of his soul into objects tied to his ambition and heritage. In doing so, he lost not only his humanity but also his wholeness, becoming less a man and more a shadow. The discovery of the Horcruxes began with Tom Riddle himself. As a student at Hogwarts, he was fascinated by the idea of splitting the soul. He confided in Horace Slughorn, charming the professor into explaining what Horcruxes were. Slughorn, horrified when he realized the boy's intent, hid the memory. Later, Harry and Dumbledore recovered it, unlocking the truth of Voldemort's plan. The Horcruxes Voldemort chose were not random. They were items of significance, objects tied to the founders of Hogwarts and to his own past. Each carried both symbolic and practical power. The Diary of Tom Riddle, his first Horcrux, revealed the danger when Ginny Weasley became possessed through it. The diary was destroyed by Harry in the Chamber of Secrets, marking the first Horcrux to fall. Other Horcruxes included Marvolo Gaunt's ring, a relic of Voldemort's pureblood heritage. This ring, cursed and deadly, was destroyed by Dumbledore at great personal cost. Helga Hufflepuff's cup, hidden in Gringotts, represented Voldemort's hunger to tie his soul to the founders of Hogwarts. Rowena Ravenclaw's diadem, lost for centuries, was another. Nagini, Voldemort's loyal serpent, was also made into a Horcrux, both companion and weapon. And finally, the most tragic Horcrux of all was Harry himself. When Voldemort tried to kill Harry as a baby, the curse rebounded. A piece of his soul, unstable and seeking refuge, latched onto the only living thing in the room. Harry carried that fragment unknowingly for years, explaining his connection to Voldemort's thoughts and emotions. It also meant that Harry had to die in order for Voldemort to be defeated. This revelation was one of the story's darkest moments, yet also one of its most powerful. Destroying Horcruxes required more than bravery. They could only be destroyed by substances strong enough to damage the soul fragment beyond repair. Basilisk venom and fiendfire were two of the only forces capable of such destruction. This made the task of hunting Horcruxes not only dangerous but nearly impossible. Yet Harry, Hermione, Ron, and their allies took on the burden. Each Horcrux destroyed brought Voldemort closer to mortality. The symbolism of Horcruxes runs deep. They represent the ultimate act of selfishness, the refusal to accept death at the cost of humanity. Voldemort believed that by splitting his soul, he was ensuring immortality. Yet in truth, he was making himself weaker. Each Horcrux tied him to the material world, but each also spread his soul thinner, leaving him less capable of love, empathy, or joy. His immortality came at the price of his humanity. The contrast with Harry could not be clearer. Where Voldemort tore his soul apart to avoid death, Harry was willing to give his life freely to protect others. Where Voldemort feared mortality, Harry accepted it. This difference is what made Harry victorious in the end. Voldemort's Horcruxes anchored him to the world, but they also anchored him to his own destruction. Once they were destroyed, he was left vulnerable, his fear exposed. For readers and listeners, Horcruxes remind us of the dangers of fearing death so much that we forget how to live. They show us that clinging to life at any cost can make us lose what makes life meaningful. Voldemort's search for immortality turned him into a shadow of himself. Harry's willingness to embrace mortality made him whole. The Horcruxes are not only the plot devices of the final books. They are the symbols of Voldemort's downfall, the dark reflection of what happens when ambition, fear, and pride go unchecked. And they remind us that in the end, it is not the length of life that matters most, but the depth of it. Albus Dumbledore is one of the most complex and fascinating figures in the Harry Potter series. To many students at Hogwarts, he was the wise and gentle headmaster, a man of immense power who carried himself with warmth and kindness. To Harry, he was more than a teacher. He was a guide, a mentor, and at times a mystery. Dumbledore's guidance shaped Harry's journey, yet it was not always straightforward. His wisdom was paired with secrecy, and his choices often left Harry with more questions than answers. From the very beginning, Dumbledore was a figure of trust. He was the one who placed Harry with the Dursleys, believing that the protection of blood magic would keep him safe. He was the one who welcomed Harry into Hogwarts, always reminding him that he belonged. And he was the one who reassured Harry that even in the darkest times, help would be given to those who ask for it. Dumbledore's calm presence gave Harry hope, even when he felt lost. Dumbledore's lessons often came in subtle ways. He believed in teaching through experience rather than simply providing answers. In Harry's first year, he explained that it was love that protected him from Voldemort, a lesson Harry did not fully understand until much later. In Harry's second year, Dumbledore reminded him that it is our choices, far more than our abilities, that define who we are. These words became guiding truths, shaping the way Harry understood himself and the world. Yet Dumbledore was not without flaws. His secrecy often frustrated Harry. He withheld information about Horcruxes, about the prophecy, and even about his own past. This secrecy sometimes left Harry unprepared and burdened with confusion. Dumbledore admitted later that his affection for Harry made it difficult for him to be as detached as he believed a mentor should be. He loved Harry too much to treat him as simply a weapon in the fight against Voldemort, yet he also placed enormous weight on Harry's shoulders. Dumbledore's past revealed even more complexity. As a young man, his friendship with Gellert Grindelwald led him into dangerous ideas about power and control. Their shared vision of wizard dominance nearly led to catastrophe, and the duel that followed left Dumbledore's sister Ariana dead. This tragedy haunted him for the rest of his life. It also shaped his determination to fight against tyranny, even as it left him with guilt and self-doubt. In the later years of the series, Dumbledore guided Harry more directly toward his destiny. Together, they sought out Horcruxes, unraveling Voldemort's secrets. Their journey to retrieve Marvolo Gaunt's ring revealed both Dumbledore's brilliance and his vulnerability, as the cursed ring left him weakened and dying. Even in his final months, Dumbledore planned carefully, arranging with Snape to ensure his own death would strengthen Harry's cause and weaken Voldemort. Perhaps Dumbledore's greatest guidance came not in life, but in death. When Harry willingly walked into the Forbidden Forest and Voldemort struck him down, Harry found himself in a dreamlike King's Cross station. There, he met Dumbledore one last time. In that moment, Dumbledore explained the truth about the Horcrux within Harry and gave him the choice to return or to move on. This final encounter revealed the depth of Dumbledore's wisdom and love, even after his passing. Dumbledore's guidance can be summed up in 3 themes. The first is that love is the greatest magic. The second is that choices define who we are. The third is that even the wisest of people are flawed, and that wisdom often comes from mistakes. He was never perfect, but he was always striving for what was right. His mentorship was not about giving Harry all the answers, but about preparing him to find them for himself. For readers and listeners, Dumbledore represents the teacher, the guide, and the flawed human all in one. He shows us that leadership is not about perfection. Lie the victories he achieved, but the lessons he left behind. In the end, Dumbledore's greatest gift to Harry was not protection or knowledge, but trust. He believed that Harry had the strength to face his destiny. And in believing that, he gave Harry the courage to believe it too. Albus Dumbledore's wisdom shaped not only Harry's journey, but the hearts of everyone who reads or listens to the story. His words carry weight because they were not simply rules or instructions. They were truths born of experience, mistakes, and compassion. Each lesson he shared became a guiding light in dark times. One of his earliest and most enduring lessons was this: it is our choices, far more than our abilities, that show who we truly are. Dumbledore spoke these words to Harry after the Chamber of Secrets, when Harry worried that his connection to Voldemort might mean he was destined for darkness. These words reminded Harry, and remind us, that destiny is not fixed. Our choices define us more than our talents or our past. Another lesson was that help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it. Dumbledore knew that courage often begins with the willingness to seek support. These words reminded Harry that he was never truly alone, that friends, teachers, and allies stood ready to help when he reached out. It is a reminder that asking for help is not weakness, but wisdom. Dumbledore also taught Harry about the danger of seeking power. Do not pity the dead, Harry. Pity the living, and above all, those who live without love. This lesson came at King's Cross, in their final meeting. It reminded Harry that love is the measure of a life well lived. Those who live without it, no matter their wealth or power, are the ones most to be pitied. This lesson stands as the opposite of Voldemort's philosophy, showing that love, not fear, is the truest strength. Another lesson was one of acceptance. To the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. Dumbledore spoke these words early in Harry's journey, planting a seed of wisdom about mortality. Unlike Voldemort, who feared death above all else, Dumbledore recognized it as a natural part of life. This acceptance of mortality guided Harry to make the ultimate sacrifice in the forest. He also spoke of truth and responsibility. The truth is a beautiful and terrible thing, and should therefore be treated with great caution. Dumbledore often carried secrets, sometimes to his fault. Yet he also knew that truth had power, and that it was not something to be feared, but something to be respected. For Harry, this meant learning that the truth of the prophecy, the Horcruxes, and his connection to Voldemort could not be hidden forever. Finally, one of Dumbledore's most powerful lessons was about unity. We are only as strong as we are united, as weak as we are divided. These words, spoken during the rising threat of Voldemort, reminded the wizarding world that division and prejudice were their greatest weaknesses. Strength came only through solidarity, through the joining of people from all houses, all bloodlines, and all walks of life. These lessons were not delivered as lectures. They came in moments of need, when Harry was uncertain, afraid, or searching for meaning. And though they were meant for Harry, they extend to all of us. Dumbledore's words remind us that life is not about power or control, but about choice, love, unity, and the courage to face truth. In the end, Dumbledore's lessons endure because they are not tied to magic alone. They are tied to humanity. And that is why, even after his death, his wisdom continues to guide. Dumbledore's lessons were filled with warmth, vision, and wisdom. He guided Harry with faith in love, in unity, and in the power of choice. Yet he was not perfect. His secrets sometimes left Harry in the dark, and his decisions were not always easy to understand. Still, his heart was turned toward hope, and his guidance gave Harry strength to face the future. But not all guidance comes with kindness. Some lessons arrive harshly, wrapped in bitterness and pain. Severus Snape was the opposite of Dumbledore in nearly every way. Where Dumbledore encouraged, Snape mocked. Where Dumbledore gave trust, Snape gave suspicion. Yet, in the end, both men shaped Harry's path. One did so openly, with warmth. The other did so in shadows, with sacrifice hidden beneath cruelty. The contrast between them reveals an important truth. Mentors are not always gentle, and lessons are not always pleasant. Sometimes the harshest voices carry their own kind of protection. Sometimes the people we least understand turn out to have been standing by us all along. As we step into the next chapter, we leave behind the comfort of Dumbledore's wisdom and enter the troubled, complicated world of Severus Snape. A man defined by bitterness, regret, and secrecy. A man whose redemption became one of the greatest revelations of the Harry Potter story. Few characters in the Harry Potter story inspire such debate and emotion as Severus Snape. For much of the series, he appears cruel, bitter, and untrustworthy. He belittles Harry, mocks Neville, and shows open favoritism toward Slytherin. To many, he seems little more than an enemy hiding within Hogwarts. Yet by the end, his story is revealed to be one of sacrifice, loyalty, and redemption. Snape's journey shows that people are never as simple as they first appear, and that even the most flawed can leave behind an act of courage that changes everything. From Harry's first potions class, Snape set himself apart as harsh and unforgiving. His questions were designed to humiliate rather than to teach. He sneered at Harry's fame and seemed to take joy in making him uncomfortable. His favoritism toward Draco Malfoy and the Slytherins only deepened the impression of unfairness. For years, Harry believed Snape hated him. And Snape did little to prove him wrong. Yet beneath the bitterness lay a secret truth. Snape's cruelty was fueled not by hatred for Harry himself, but by a complicated history with Harry's parents. He had loved Lily Evans, Harry's mother, since childhood. But he had also hated James Potter, Harry's father, who had bullied him during their school years. When Lily chose James, Snape's heart was broken, and his bitterness hardened. Still, his love for Lily remained. It became the defining force of his life. That love drove Snape into his greatest act of loyalty. Though he joined Voldemort as a Death Eater in his youth, he turned against him when Lily's life was threatened. He begged Voldemort to spare her. When Voldemort refused, and Lily was killed, Snape's grief became a vow. He would protect her son, no matter the cost. This promise bound him to Dumbledore, creating a partnership hidden from the world. Throughout the series, Snape walked a dangerous line. To the Death Eaters, he appeared loyal. To Dumbledore, he was a spy. To Harry, he was a tormentor. But in truth, his every action was shaped by the vow he had made to protect Lily's son. Even when he appeared cruel, even when his words cut deep, Snape was playing a role that required secrecy. His harshness was real, but his purpose was hidden. Snape's redemption is revealed most fully in his final moments. Mortally wounded by Voldemort, who believed the Elder Wand would only obey him if Snape died, Snape passed his memories to Harry. These memories unveiled the truth. They showed Snape's love for Lily. They showed his grief at her death. They showed his promise to Dumbledore. And they showed the depth of his sacrifice, living a life of pain and secrecy, all for the sake of protecting Harry. One of the most striking revelations is how much Snape risked. He agreed to kill Dumbledore when the headmaster was already dying, sparing Draco Malfoy from committing the act. He endured the mistrust of the Order of the Phoenix, never revealing his true allegiance. He lived in bitterness, mocked and mistrusted, yet never broke his vow. His love was not loud or easy. It was hidden, painful, and enduring. Snape's story forces us to reconsider what redemption means. He was not kind. He was not gentle. He caused pain and carried grudges. But he also gave his life for a promise, and his actions saved countless others. His story shows that redemption is not about erasing flaws, but about choosing to act with loyalty and courage despite them. For Harry, learning the truth about Snape was transformative. For years he had seen only an enemy. But in those final memories, he saw the full picture. Snape was not simply cruel, nor simply noble. He was both. He was human. And Harry honored him by naming his son after him, calling him the bravest man I ever knew. Snape's redemption reminds us that people are rarely one thing. They can be cruel and loving, bitter and loyal, flawed and heroic all at once. His life is a story of regret, of choices made and unmade, but also of love that endured even through bitterness. It is a reminder that even the darkest hearts can carry light, and that redemption often comes not in glory, but in sacrifice. The Battle of Hogwarts stands as the climax of the entire Harry Potter story. It is not just the final confrontation between Harry and Voldemort, but the moment when every character, every lesson, and every sacrifice converges into one decisive struggle. It is a battle for the soul of the wizarding world, fought not only with spells and wands but with loyalty, courage, and love. The battle began when Voldemort brought his forces to the gates of Hogwarts. Death Eaters, giants, werewolves, and dark creatures marched alongside him, seeking to seize the school and claim Harry once and for all. Inside the castle, however, the defenders gathered. Professors, students, members of the Order of the Phoenix, and even creatures loyal to the school all came together to resist. Hogwarts was no longer just a school. It was a fortress of hope. The preparations for battle revealed the unity of those who fought. Professor McGonagall called upon the suits of armor and stone statues to rise and defend the school. Flitwick and Sprout enchanted plants and protective charms to strengthen the walls. Families arrived through secret passages, and even house elves took up arms to protect their home. This spirit of solidarity showed that the fight was not only Harry's, but belonged to everyone who believed in resisting darkness. As the battle raged, chaos filled the halls. Spells flashed across courtyards, staircases, and classrooms. Giants clashed with enchanted statues. Centaurs fired arrows from the forest. The defenders fought bravely, but the cost was high. Beloved characters fell in the struggle. Fred Weasley, full of humor and light, was killed in an explosion, leaving his family shattered. Remus Lupin and Nymphadora Tonks, who had just begun their lives as parents, were struck down, leaving their infant son behind. Each loss carried a weight that reminded us of the true cost of war. At the heart of the battle, Harry uncovered the truth of his connection to Voldemort. Guided by Snape's final memories, he realized that a part of Voldemort's soul lived within him, and that he must die for Voldemort to be defeated. This revelation transformed the battle. It was no longer about victory in combat, but about sacrifice. Harry walked into the Forbidden Forest, willingly offering his life. His choice mirrored his mother's sacrifice, and it became the turning point of the battle. When Voldemort struck Harry with the killing curse, Harry found himself in a dreamlike King's Cross, where Dumbledore explained that by willingly accepting death, Harry had broken Voldemort's power. The protection of love now extended to everyone fighting at Hogwarts. When Harry returned, alive but unnoticed, the tide began to turn. The final confrontation between Harry and Voldemort took place in the Great Hall. Surrounded by survivors and enemies alike, Harry revealed the truth. He explained that the Elder Wand, Voldemort's weapon, did not truly belong to him. Its allegiance had passed through Draco Malfoy and finally to Harry himself. When Voldemort cast the final curse, it rebounded upon him, just as it had years before. Voldemort fell, defeated by his own fear and arrogance. The Battle of Hogwarts was more than the defeat of one dark wizard. It was the triumph of unity over division, love over hatred, and courage over fear. The students of every house, the professors, the Order, the Centaurs, the House Elves, and even those who had once doubted the fight all stood together. They proved Dumbledore's lesson true. We are only as strong as we are united, as weak as we are divided. For Harry, the battle marked the end of his journey. He had faced fear, loss, and sacrifice, and in the end, he had triumphed not through power, but through love and humility. For the wizarding world, it marked a new beginning, a chance to rebuild without the shadow of Voldemort. The Battle of Hogwarts reminds us that every act of bravery matters. That every loss carries meaning. And that even in the darkest of times, hope can endure. It was the final test, the moment when every lesson of the story came to life. And it was the victory that ensured the light of Hogwarts would shine once more. The story of Harry Potter does not end with the Battle of Hogwarts. The victory over Voldemort was decisive, but the true legacy of Harry and his world lies in what came after. It lives in the choices made, the lessons carried forward, and the enduring impact on the wizarding world. More than that, It lives in the way this story continues to inspire readers and listeners across generations. Harry's personal legacy begins with peace. After years of fear, secrecy, and danger, he was finally free to live a life of his own choosing. He did not seek power, riches, or recognition. Instead, he chose family. He married Ginny Weasley, building a life grounded in love and normalcy. Together, they raised children who grew up in a world free of Voldemort's shadow. This choice itself was significant. After all the suffering he endured, Harry's greatest triumph was not in battle, but in choosing to live a full and ordinary life. The Wizarding world also carried forward the legacy of sacrifice. The losses endured in the Battle of Hogwarts and throughout the war became reminders of the cost of freedom. Fred Weasley's laughter, Remus Lupin's quiet strength, Tonks's bravery, and so many others who fell, their memory became part of the story of rebuilding. The legacy of their lives was not just in their deaths, but in the values they embodied. The friendships forged during Harry's journey became part of this legacy as well. Ron and Hermione, who had stood with Harry from the beginning, grew into leaders in their own right. Their loyalty to one another and to their cause showed that friendship can endure trials, differences, and danger. They proved that unity and trust are not only powerful in times of war, but essential for life afterward. The next generation became the living symbol of hope. Albus Severus Potter, Rose Granger Weasley, and Scorpius Malfoy were born into a world with new opportunities and fewer divisions. The scars of the past remained, but the future was open. The legacy of Harry's story passed to them, reminding us that the fight against darkness is never truly over, but that each new generation carries the torch of hope. On a larger scale, Harry's legacy is about the lessons that the Wizarding world, and we as readers, take from his story. We learn that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to face it. We learn that love is the most powerful force, stronger than any spell or curse. We learn that choices, not abilities, define who we are. And we learn that unity is our greatest strength. These lessons reach beyond Hogwarts and beyond the pages of the story. They remind us of truths that matter in our own world. The legacy also lives in the complexity of the characters. Heroes like Harry, Hermione, and Ron inspire us. But flawed figures like Snape, Dumbledore, and even Draco remind us that people are never only good or evil. They are shaped by choices, regrets, and moments of redemption. This complexity is part of the enduring power of the story. It reflects the reality of human nature, making the magic feel real. Finally, the legacy of Harry Potter lies in the way the story continues to unite people across the world. Readers and listeners from every background find themselves in these pages. Some see themselves in Harry's courage, others in Hermione's wisdom, others in Neville's quiet growth, or even in Luna's eccentric but honest perspective. The story has become more than a tale. It has become a shared experience, passed from one generation to the next. In the end, the legacy of Harry Potter is not about wands, spells, or battles. It is about the choices we make, the people we love, and the hope we carry forward. It reminds us that darkness can rise, but so can light. That loss can wound, but love can heal. That even the smallest act of bravery can change the world. Harry's story may have ended, but his legacy endures. Not only in the Wizarding world, but in every heart that carries his lessons forward. And that is the true magic of Harry Potter. The story of Harry Potter closes not on a battlefield, but on a train platform. 19 years after the Battle of Hogwarts, the world has changed. Peace has settled over the Wizarding community, and the scars of war have begun to fade. Yet the past is never forgotten. It lingers in memory, in names, and in the lessons carried forward. At King's Cross Station, families gather to send their children to Hogwarts. The steam of the Scarlet Train fills the air, and the familiar excitement of a new school year crackles all around. Among the crowd stand Harry and Ginny Potter with their 3 children, James, Albus Severus, and Lily Luna. They are joined by Ron and Hermione, who bring Rose and Hugo. Even Draco Malfoy is there, older, changed, with his son Scorpius by his side. The rivalries of the past are not erased, but they are softened by time and the shared responsibility of parenthood. The moment carries with it a sense of continuation. The next generation steps forward, not into a world of fear and war, but into a world rebuilt by the sacrifices of those who came before. Hogwarts still stands. The train still waits. The traditions endure. But the shadows of Voldemort are gone, leaving space for new stories, new friendships, and new lessons. For Harry, the moment is deeply personal. His son, Albus Severus, fears being sorted into Slytherin. Harry kneels beside him, offering reassurance. He tells his son that being in Slytherin would not make him any less of a Potter, nor any less brave. He explains that the bravest man he ever knew, Severus Snape, was a Slytherin. In these words, Harry shows how much he has grown. He has learned to see beyond old divisions, to recognize strength and honor in every house, and to pass that wisdom on to his children. This quiet exchange captures the true legacy of Harry's journey. He is no longer the boy who lived, carrying the weight of prophecy. He is a man who lived, who chose love, and who now raises his children in a safer world. His story has come full circle, from the orphan left at Privet Drive to the father standing proudly at King's Cross. As the train pulls away, carrying a new generation to Hogwarts, the cycle of beginnings continues. The story does not end. It carries forward in every child boarding that train, in every lesson taught at the castle, and in every memory of those who sacrificed for peace. The epilogue reminds us that the legacy of Harry Potter is: to the darkest of times, light returns. It is about the reassurance that children can grow up without fear, and that families can send them off with hope. 19 years later, the world is not perfect. But it is better. And in that simple truth lies the deepest magic of all. We began this guide by stepping into the world of Harry Potter with fresh eyes. Over these chapters, we have traveled from the foundations of Hogwarts to the deepest battles of the wizarding world. Each stop has taught us lessons about courage, friendship, sacrifice, and love. We started by meeting Harry himself. The boy who lived. A child marked by loss, but also by hope. His story showed us that even the most ordinary beginnings can carry extraordinary purpose. From there, we entered Hogwarts, learning about the Sorting Hat, the Four Houses, and the magical traditions that shaped young witches and wizards. These early lessons grounded us in the importance of identity, choice, and belonging. We then explored the friendships that defined Harry's journey. Ron and Hermione taught us loyalty, intelligence, and courage. Characters like Neville, Luna, and Ginny reminded us that heroes come in many forms. Together, they revealed that true strength is found not in standing alone, but in standing side by side. The darker parts of the story also demanded our attention. We studied the rise of Voldemort, the fear of death that consumed him, and the creation of Horcruxes that tore his soul apart. We examined the lessons of prejudice, seen in the treatment of house elves, giants, and muggle-borns. And we faced the chilling power of dementors, basilisks, and other magical creatures that symbolized fear, despair, or misunderstanding. Alongside these struggles, we celebrated the joy and wonder of the wizarding world. Quidditch thrilled us with its speed and competition. Charms, spells, and potions amazed us with their creativity. Magical creatures enchanted us with beauty and power. These wonders reminded us that the wizarding world was not only about fighting darkness, but also about living fully in moments of joy and discovery. We studied the wisdom of Dumbledore, who guided Harry with love, even while carrying his own flaws. And we uncovered the truth about Snape, whose harsh exterior concealed a life of loyalty and sacrifice. These mentors taught us that wisdom can come in many forms, and that even the most complicated lives can carry deep lessons. Finally, we walked through the Battle of Hogwarts, where every lesson came to life. Unity triumphed over division. Sacrifice triumphed over fear. And love triumphed over hatred. From that final stand, we moved forward to the legacy of Harry Potter. A legacy of family, of hope, and of a future where new generations would carry on the lessons of the past. Looking back, what we have learned is simple but profound. That magic is not only in spells or wands. It is in choices, friendships, sacrifices, and love. The Harry Potter story continues to resonate because it reminds us of truths that matter beyond the wizarding world. This first closing chapter is a look back, a reminder of how far we have come in this journey. In the next and final chapter, we will gather these lessons into one closing reflection. We will ask what they mean for us, here and now, and why the legacy of Harry Potter endures across generations. The Harry Potter story may be set in a world of spells, castles, and enchanted creatures, but at its heart it has always been about something far more universal. It is about the choices we make, the love we give, and the courage we find when darkness rises. These are the lessons we carry forward, long after the last page is read or the final chapter is heard. We learned that bravery is not about never feeling fear, but about stepping forward in spite of it. Harry's courage in the face of Voldemort was not the absence of fear. It was the presence of determination. Each of us faces fears in our own lives, and the story reminds us that we can choose to meet them with the same resolve. We learned that loyalty and friendship are among the strongest forces in the world. Ron, Hermione, Neville, Luna, and so many others showed that standing together changes everything. No one wins battles alone. And in our lives, it is our connections to others that sustain us when times grow difficult. We learned that love is the most powerful magic of all. It was Lily's love that saved Harry, Dumbledore's love that guided him, and Snape's hidden love that redeemed him. Love does not always come easily or gently, but it always matters. It is what Voldemort never understood, and it is what ultimately destroyed him. We also learned that death is not the end to be feared, but a part of life to be accepted. The Deathly Hallows reminded us that the true master of death is not the one who avoids it, but the one who greets it with peace. Harry's acceptance of mortality gave him victory, and it teaches us to live more fully in the time we have. Most of all, we learned that magic is not only in wands or castles. Magic is in the way people choose hope over despair, unity over division, and kindness over cruelty. The world of Harry Potter mirrors our own, reminding us that even when darkness seems overwhelming, light can return. As this guide comes to a close, we stand at the train platform once more, watching as the Scarlet steam engine carries a new generation to Hogwarts. The story reminds us that every ending is also a beginning. That the lessons of one life ripple into the lives of others. And that the magic of this tale will endure as long as we remember what it taught us. The true magic of Harry Potter is not left behind in the pages of a book. It is carried in the hearts of those who read it, those who listen to it, and those who live its lessons. It is carried in you. So as we step away from this journey, remember, courage will face fear. Love will outlast loss. And hope will always rise again. That is the legacy of Harry Potter. And that is the magic we carry forward. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the world of Harry Potter. Together, we have explored its magic, its lessons, and its enduring legacy. We have walked alongside Harry from his first steps into Hogwarts to his final victory at the Battle of Hogwarts. And we have seen how courage, love, friendship, and choice remain the truest forms of magic. As you close this guide, I invite you to carry these lessons with you. Remember that bravery is not the absence of fear, but the strength to move forward. Remember that love, in all its forms, is more powerful than any darkness. And remember that hope, even in the smallest moments, can light the way through the night. This is not an ending. The story continues every time someone opens a book, shares a memory, or passes its wisdom to another. In that way, the magic of Harry Potter is alive in all of us. So until our paths cross again, keep the magic close, live with courage, and never forget that even in the darkest times, there is always light to be found.